Ricciardo's bid to take down Perez from Red Bull has officially started, and in the best way possible. He outperformed his teammate in both qualifying and race pace, which is exactly what Red Bull wanted to see. And after being just 4 places down the starting grid from Perez, the attention of Red Bull has been caught up yet again. Is this a last straw for Perez? And will Ricciardo be considered as a legitimate candidate for the second seat in Red Bull as early as 2024? The Hungarian GP was highly anticipated, mainly because Ricciardo's comeback. After being out for 10 races, he impressed by bringing the AT04 into Q2. A tough feat, considering he hadn't driven the car before the race. The practice sessions went well, and experts praised his performance on a track that demands high downforce, causing drag for the cars. Starting from P13, Ricciardo maintained his position, finishing in the same spot. Ricciardo had a fantastic performance, out-qualifying and outperforming Tsunoda in the race. It wasn't easy for him, as he was pushed on the back of the grid in lap 1, while Tsunoda made impressive progress from last to P11. Despite that, Ricciardo showed he still has what it takes to excel in a less competitive car. The P13 finish, though aided by the retirements of the 2 Alpine drivers ahead of him, brought a smile to his face. Even though it might have been hard to believe he'd enjoy a role in Tauri, he's clearly happy with his current situation. He praised the Italian team for their efforts in the race. I feel like I still have a bit of energy. I was certainly, I don't want to say worried, a word less than worried. This is always one of the most physical races, let alone not having done this for 8 months. I thought after 30 laps I would be singing for a breath of fresh air, but I actually felt great. The race pace was good. It was unlucky for me at the start to drop to the back. When we're a team who need to have everything to go well to get points, I knew it was impossible to get back into the top 10. But I'm glad I could continue the race and learn from the car. In the end, I'm happy with the race I did. Red Bull wanted to see Ricciardo outperform Tsunoda in the first race, and he delivered. Despite Tsunoda's strong performances this season, Ricciardo showed that experienced F1 drivers can compete at the same level. In fact, he proved to be 1 step ahead of Yuki, both in qualifying and the race. The next challenge for Ricciardo is to maintain his race pace and score points in the remaining 11 races. It won't be easy, but he's known for performing well under pressure. Although his time at McLaren didn't go as planned, he now appreciates the opportunity to drive in F1 more than ever. Ricciardo's passion for F1 is still strong, and that's good news for him and the sport. The story is just beginning, and fans can expect exciting performances from him in the races ahead. Ricciardo's recent performance didn't go unnoticed by the track engineers, and Helmut Marko praised him from the start of the free practice sessions on Friday. Ricciardo's valuable feedback on the car's behavior could be crucial in improving it for the second half of the season. This improvement will allow him to fight competitively in the midfield, which is essential if he wants to contend for the Red Bull seat earlier than 2025. When asked about Ricciardo's performance in Hungary and the possibility of him replacing Perez sooner, Marko said, "On Friday, the engineers were almost euphoric about the great feedback they received from Ricciardo. If Ricciardo wants to come back with us, he has to perform. The contract with Perez runs until 2024. Perez has to improve. We told him to just concentrate and not always look at Max. He just needs to be a little more relaxed." As the weekend began, Perez faced immense pressure, and his early crash in the free practice session on Friday only added to it. There were growing concerns that he might be replaced by Ricciardo at Red Bull. Given how quickly De Vries was replaced, it's unlikely that Perez would have had much leeway for his performance if he hadn't finished P3 in Hungary. The reality is clear now. Ricciardo is a top candidate for the second seat at Red Bull. Ricciardo will undoubtedly face tough competition from Perez, especially after his impressive recovery race in Hungary. Perez showed he can perform exceptionally well in a top-performing car. However, his struggle with consistency has been evident throughout the 2023 season. While the fans may reward him as a driver of the day for finishing P3 from P9, the team's expectations are different. Anything below P2 for the RB19 is seen as a disappointment. Starting in P9 is far from the plans Red Bull has for its second driver. Even if they pursue the super team approach and sign a driver like Leclerc or Norris, we shouldn't overlook Ricciardo's potential. He shouldn't be left out of the mix, as he is the one we'd love to see competing for race wins once again. However, it may seem like a difficult task right now with Verstappen's current domination at Red Bull. Regardless, Ricciardo's goal remains unchanged, and his successful debut with AlphaTauri has provided a positive turn of events. Christian Horner responded to this performance right after the race. Although Horner stated that Perez's seat is secure for 2024 and Red Bull won't make the same decision Racing Point did in 2020, his comments about the qualities required for the second driver at Red Bull hint at another direction. Horner was candid when discussing this matter, elaborating on his thoughts. "It's always been the plan to have Perez in the car. He signed an agreement and it was a 2-year agreement. So that is our plan. Ricciardo needs to excel. The seat is Checo's and 2025 is a long way away. We want to field the best 2 drivers we can for 2025. Ricciardo's done a great job, and I think getting into the team that is 10th in the championship at the moment, a very foreign environment with 7 out of the seat, I thought that was a very solid, mature performance from him. The team will really benefit from his experience and knowledge, and you can see he's enjoying it, which is the most important thing. With a Daniel that is enjoying driving, you're going to get more from him." Unfortunately for AlphaTauri, they cannot expect to have Ricciardo performing at this level for an extended period. However, as we witnessed with McLaren, if the right upgrades come at the right time, the situation could change rapidly. The AT04 could transform from a backmarker to a competitive midfield contender. If Perez continues to struggle in qualifying and has to rely on recovery races, it would be excellent news for Ricciardo. As we've seen, Verstappen's dominance is not as pronounced during Saturday's qualifying sessions, and the gap between him and the rest of the grid becomes smaller. With this in mind, what do you think are the main reasons for placing Ricciardo in the AlphaTauri this year? Firstly, it was to assess his progress and see if he could be a potential option for the 2024 season, in case they decide not to continue with Checo. Even though he has a contract, it can be renegotiated or terminated. Secondly, they wanted to evaluate Yuki's performance, and his contract ends this year. Personally, I believe he should be retained. Lastly, having Daniel in the car allows them to gather valuable feedback for the development of this year's car, especially if there's still some budget left due to the budget cap, or if they haven't started working on next year's car. This decision may have been made before the summer break to understand how the car feels and performs, and compare his feedback with Yuki's. With Red Bull's plan to make the car an even greater beast for 2024, the upcoming upgrades have to serve as a foundation for their ultimate goal. In the end, the main focus is finding a replacement for Perez, either for the 2024 or 2025 season. It had little to do with De Vries's performance, and that's unfortunate for him. If Perez had been performing well this season, there wouldn't have been a need to consider Ricciardo for the seat. Whether Nick or Daniel scores 0 points in that car doesn't seem to matter much in this decision. Some people say Red Bull is ruthless, but their decisions have usually been justified. Gasly deserved more time, but Albon and Kvyat didn't perform. However, with Nick, it feels truly ruthless, as he's being replaced due to Perez's situation, and it's easier to blame it on Nick instead. Considering Ricciardo's impressive debut where he finished just below the points, but still put up a good race, he must be feeling delighted. Now the question arises whether Red Bull sees him as a suitable replacement for Perez. Will they prioritize consistent points and Q3 entrances? Or will Ricciardo's strong performance be enough to sway their decision? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.